What makes you happy? In a recent Pew Research poll of 19,000 people, occupation, friends, and health were just some of the top reasons people cited when asked about the meaning of life.
Happiness is a pretty complicated concept that has to do with just sort of pleasure on the one hand, but has to do with broader meaning also.
But Canadians are not as happy as we once were 10 years ago. According to the World Happiness Report, we rank number 15 out of 146 countries. That's good, right? Well, 10 years ago, we were number 5 on the list. So where do the happiest people in the world live? Finland. In fact, they have had the number 1 spot for the past 4 years.
It's not about jumping with joy or smiling and laughing, but it's more about, you think that, well, after all, everything is quite good.
According to the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, this ranking is based on healthy life expectancy, social trust, corruption, freedom to make key life decisions, GDP per capita, and community support. So why are we less happy?
We have these strong intuitions about the kinds of things that can make us happy, but often those intuitions are wrong.
So do we need a World Happiness Report to tell us if we're happy or not? How do we find true happiness? This week on Context, where does happiness come from? And can it be measured? Welcome to Context. I'm Maggie John. John Helliwell is a professor at the Vancouver School of Economics and one of the editors of the World Happiness Report. So Professor Helliwell, the report is in for 2022 and Canadians are less happier than we were 10 years ago. Why is this?
Well, other people are happier. That's part of the twist, and it's still not completely understood. Our predictions, based on a whole lot of factors, suggest we should be happier than we actually are. So I think there's something going on in Canadian angst that is bringing people's views down relative to other countries. So it's not just purely COVID, but it may be some of the public reactions, or indeed it may be some of Canadians looking back in their own history and not feeling as proud as they did.
What is the goal of the World Happiness Report?
It's intended to allow people a basic source of information about how life is going for people all over the world. Previously, official sources and others focused on income as though that were, in fact, the main support for happier lives. We, of course, include income when we're trying to explain our results, but basically it all depends on people's answers to a simple question. Think of your life as a whole, with the worst possible life as a 0 and the best as a 10. How would you rate your life today? And so we present unvarnished answers from people all over the world, 1,000 in every country and every year through the Gallup World Poll. And that's our measure. And because we find it depends so much on things that we know matter to people from other studies, we figure it's a nice thing for people to focus on instead of just being limited by what otherwise available.
Professor Helliwell, can happiness truly, though, be measured?
Well, that was, of course, what we were setting out to see. It can be measured in very many ways. Emotion, the happiness of emotion, how happy are you right at this moment, that can be measured. And it tells you things often about what's going on at the moment. Anger, sadness, there's a whole range of emotions we and others measure. We find that those are important, but the most important question is to ask the general question: how happy are you with your life as a whole? And we find that's much more stable. It shows much more resilience. This central measure, what we call a life evaluation, is in fact a very effective way of measuring the quality of life. It responds to the same things in every country of the world, although there are some cultural differences that show up, as you might guess, and linguistic ones according to what words are used. But by and large, these evaluations give a very consistent picture of the quality of life. And so we're quite optimistic.
Yeah. And what are some of the similarities that you've seen amongst the happiest countries? What are some of the similarities that they have in common?
The biggest things are their countries. I mean, people have dropped wallets experimentally in many countries, and it's no surprise that in the Nordic countries, which are always at the top, your wallet is much more likely to be returned than in other countries. And that's a symbol for living in a society where people look out for each other's well-being. And that's a deep and fundamental source of happiness everywhere, because we have survey measures about how likely wallet return is, and we find people are happiest in those countries where they think their wallet is likely to be returned. And I can see why that would be true. I'll bet you can too.
Yeah, an element of trust, an element of kindness, for sure. Thank you so much, Professor John Helliwell, for your time today.
My pleasure. Have a happy day.
So what do Canadians think? Why are we not as happy as we were 10 years ago? I went to the streets to find out.
I think it's because we're dealing with a decline in standards of living, and because the job market, although they say there are, lots of jobs available, they're not jobs anyone really wants to do.
Lack of jobs, I think.
Compared to what? Because there's been a pandemic, and I can see why that would make people unhappy.
A lot of stuff's been happening in the world. So everyone's kind of like, down, struggling.
Because they have no any family culture.
Smartphones, because we look at screen more and talk less with people.
Professor Felix Chung is the research chair for the Population Wellbeing Lab at the University of Toronto. His team has worked on the Canadian Happiness Report, which found that daily feelings of positive emotions like happiness are down 6.1% from 2005 in Canada. Thank you so much, Felix, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So what did the Canadian Happiness Report find?
Yeah, so we use data from Canadian participants from late 2000s up to 2021, and we try to look at how happiness has been changing over time in Canada. What we found is that in 2021, Canadians' happiness ranked 15th in the world, which sounds great. And that's, in fact, a good sign. But when we look at the overtime change, what we see is a declining level of happiness since the late 2000s. And if we rank Canada's happiness across the globe, what we found is that the change in happiness in Canada ranked 107 out of 128 countries. So while Canadians are doing pretty good generally, the declining happiness is definitely a worrying sign, and we need to do something to change this course.
You indicate, and you alluded to this, you indicate in the report that Canada ranked 13th in absolute life satisfaction in 2021, and as you said, 107th out of 128 countries in terms of change to life satisfaction. What does that specifically mean? Can you boil that down for us, for the layperson? What does that mean for Canadians?
Yeah, so I think what this means is that we can think about the measurement of happiness itself. So this measures go from 0 to 10-point scale, 0 being the worst possible life, 10 being the best possible life. And we ask Canadians to rate their life on the scale. So we can think about this about our own life. Imagine that 10 years ago, you would put yourself at a 7.7, for example, on the scale. But 10 years later, if you score 7, it seems like something must be happening that is that's causing you to put yourself on the scale at a lower score. I think what this means for Canadians is that this is happening at a population scale. So what this means is that happiness is not just our own personal responsibility, and this reflecting something happening that's community-wide, that's population-wide. I think this is a really worrying trend, and we need to continue to monitor this and start doing things to reverse this trend.
Yeah, so what can we do to reverse the trend? Because it is worrying. I mean, as we see, we have so much in our country, so much wealth, so many resources. And so what is the thought of what we can do to maybe change the trajectory of that?
I think, like you said, since late 2000s, obviously, we have made tremendous strides in many different domains. We have more resources compared to 10 years ago. Our economy is better. But what we can do is to set happiness and life satisfaction as a policy goal, as a policy priority. What this means is that, yes, economics, our physical health, there are many things that are important to us, but then we need to align our policy with pursuing economics in a way that improves our quality of life. So the thing that we need to do right now from a policy angle is to start measuring Canadians' happiness regularly and frequently so that it can provide a feedback channel to see the impact of our public policy. In other words, if we treasure happiness, we need to measure it.
And why is it important that we measure happiness?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as we can see throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, what we see is that mental health, mental well-being has entered the center stage of public discourse. A lot of people are concerned about their mental health and their happiness. And again, to the extent that we treasure this, then it should reflect in our policy indicators. Our policy indicators reflect the priorities of our Canadian government, of our Canadian populations. And by measuring this, we can realign our public policies with what truly matters to Canadian people.
All right, Professor Felix Chung, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Painting makes me happy, and cooking, being creative.
Going to the gym, doing exercise, that makes me happy.
My wife.
That's a tough question. I don't know, lots of things. I don't know, just relaxing, watching TV, watching sports, smiling, all of that.
I guess meeting my friends and hanging out with them, mostly, doing sports.
My work. Yeah, my work and my passion. Yeah.
Yeah, trust in God and follow the Bible. You understand me? So it makes me happy.
The pursuit of happiness is one we all seem to be on. But what is happiness? How would you define it? Does it last forever? And is it achievable? Psychotherapist Roxanne Francis is here to shed some light on this topic. Thanks for joining us today, Roxanne.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So is happiness attainable?
I think it is. I think where we fall down is thinking that we have to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
It's definitely attainable.
Can happiness be measured? And I want you to get your take on this, Roxanne, but first, let's hear what some Canadians on the street had to say. Take a look at this.
Sure.
Measure happiness. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. There's times that, like, you know, you're really happy, you know, you go on vacation with somebody and you had a really good time, and there's time that, hey, you're happy you just got a phone, right? You gotta have hope.
I would say like facial expression. Like when you're smiling, you gotta be happy, right?
So Roxanne, isn't happiness just a feeling that comes and goes? Can it be measured?
I think it's hard to quantify. It's one of those qualitative things where you know because you're feeling it, but it really, I think, is really hard to measure. What we need to be really focusing on is a state of contentment, because, you know, a lot of people will say things like the word happiness tends to come from what is happening in your life. So if you can only be happy when good things are happening, then we're in trouble. I think what we really need to look at is the fact that life ebbs and flows, it goes up and down, and can we find a measure of contentment throughout those ups and downs of life, right? Can we find a sense of peace and a sense of calm through it all? Because there are going to be days that cause you to be very elated, and there are going to be days that cause you to be very down. And we cannot, it's a little bit unsustainable to expect that we're going to be happy throughout all of it.
So the pressure of social media, the pressure of all of these things, when we're looking at people's highlight reels and, you know, Jane and Sue and Bobby, everybody on Instagram and Facebook always look happy. Can we be happy forever? Because it seems like Jane, Sue, and Bobby are always happy? Can we actually realistically be happy forever?
I think to your point around social media and all those people that we look at, we need to recognize that they're actually just showing us their highlight reel. They are not happy forever. It's unrealistic to think that anyone is always happy, and to expect that we will always be happy is setting us up certainly for unhappiness. We need to recognize that all those people on social media are posting their happy moments, and happiness comes and goes. And so because they believe that people don't want to see the sadness, no one wants to show when they're having an argument with their spouse, no one's posting about those things. And so what we do is we sell this idea to the onlookers that our lives should be happy all the time. And then when we find ourselves feeling down, we critique ourselves for that. We shouldn't feel this way. Why do we feel unhappy? Why do we feel anxious or angry? And what needs to happen is we really need to give ourselves grace to feel all of it, because, there is a whole wheel, a whole gamut of emotions. And as human beings, we're meant to feel all of them.
Yeah. We're hearing a lot of the term toxic positivity. Is there pressure to be happy? You kind of alluded to this. Is there this pressure by society to be happy when we're not?
Yes, 100%. When you connect with someone and you ask them how they're doing, immediately they'll say they're doing great or they're doing fine. And it is unlikely that someone will say that they're not doing so great. And to be honest, it does take a bit of a relationship with someone for you to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm not doing so well. However, we feel as though, if we are gainfully employed, if we have people who love us, if we have a roof over our heads, then we should not feel sad. And we carry this feeling of guilt because somehow, we have this discontentment within us when we have these things going on in our lives. And people will tell us, well, look on the bright side, at least it's not that bad. And while gratitude certainly has its place, and while it helps us find our joy and our happiness, we have to remember that we cannot be happy all the time. And so the expectation that we dismiss our sadness or we dismiss our anger or our disappointment and immediately replace that with happiness, that is toxic, because that is not realistic, and it certainly can pave the way to a certain depths of despair that can lead to depression if we're not allowing ourselves to feel the gamut of all of our emotions.
All right, Roxanne Francis, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Maggie.
I can't wait to hear what our panel has to say about this week's topic. Calvin, Jackie, and Colin are here. The World Happiness Report has found that Canada is 15th on the list of the happiest countries in the world, which is pretty good when you consider how many countries that we're up against. But the report also shows that we are less happier than we were 10 years ago. Why do you think that is, Calvin?
Oh man, we just went through a pandemic, number one. Hey, inflation is real, and a lot of chaos, a lot of division, a lot of differing opinions and ideas in our country. So I can understand why.
This has been a steady decline for the past 10 years. So even pre-pandemic, pre all of these things, would you say that you're happy, Jackie, as a Canadian?
Absolutely. I am happy. I love what I do, honestly. And I think that is key because I spend the majority of my time not with my family or with my friends or on vacation. I spend it in my 9 to 5, which is not really a 9 to 5, but I love it. And I think that that is really important. And I also think it's important for people to know that happiness is something I say you can hack. There are studies that show us how to be happier. And I'm actually reading a book right now called Happy Money, which is a fascinating look at how to spend our money and time in ways that bring us more joy. The research is out there, and I think we need to be a lot more intentional about tapping into it and making our decisions through a happiness lens. What will make me happier in my life, rather than focusing on productivity and efficiency? When I look at the best-selling books out there, essentialism and all of these books that tell us how to be more productive, I think, is this what really we should be aiming for as a society, or is happiness what we should be striving for?
Colin, how about you? Are you a happy guy?
Oh, I think probably most of the time, but I actually might reframe even the word happy a little bit, and I might want to talk about satisfaction or about meaning in life, because I don't feel happy all the time, but I do feel fulfilled in my work. I have a family that I love that supports me and that I support. I have meaningful relationships with other people. And sometimes those relationships even cause stress and temporary unhappiness, but they also create deep connection and a sense of meaning in life. And so I think one of the issues at hand is we sometimes misdefine what we're talking about a little bit here. It's not always about feeling good every moment of the day, but the question is, when you wake up in the morning, do you know what you're waking up in the morning for? Do you have a sense of purpose, and are you moving forward in your life towards something?
It's one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what makes you happy, or what makes you joyful to wake up in the morning? I love that you said that. So is happiness achievable? Calvin, what are your thoughts?
It is achievable. It is fleeting. I'm with Colin. I like contentment. I like satisfaction. I think it's a fruit of the spirit. As believers, we actually have a grid of how to have a contentment in our life and true satisfaction that goes far beyond joy and goes far beyond happiness. So I think it's achievable. I think there are other things that you can do to be content, satisfied, grounded, so that you can really be happy when it's time to be happy.
Okay, so I've heard different words. I've heard people interchange happiness with joy in this conversation, and joy is a fruit of the spirit. And so is there a difference between happiness and joy, Calvin?
There is. I would say that in my experience in walking with people, but then let's go in my own personal experience being at funerals, let's say, of people that I love, and holding in a container the moments and the memories as you reflect and have great joy, even in the midst of immense sadness, knowing that there's loss and no more to be added, but completely filled with joy in that moment. Not happy, but joy.
Yeah. So Colin, should we be chasing feelings of happiness? You know, we look at this report that says that Canadians are, becoming more unhappy over the years. Is this something that we should be concerned about? Should we be chasing these feelings? Or, to Calvin and even your earlier comment, Colin, are we supposed to be looking at other words to help that fulfillment, that feeling that we so want to feel content, to feel satisfied, all of those other words that you used?
Yeah, well, I think when you look at that happiness report we're talking about, some of it is sort of about fleeting feelings, fleeting emotional experiences, but a lot of it is sort of about the contentment and the purpose that we feel, the connections that we feel as people. And I do think we should be thinking about the things that report tells us and thinking about how we can maybe move forward in constructive ways as a society, because there are real problems that are not just derailing people's temporary happiness, but derailing their deep joy and their sense of satisfaction. Calvin mentioned inflation, for example. Like when a person looks forward into their life and they can't see a way to have what they need materially to live a satisfied and successful life, that's a serious concern. And young people feel like that frequently. Or if we have people who don't feel like they're valued by the society that they belong to. And this is something we hear frequently, for example, from people who experience disability. They feel like their society doesn't value them in the same way as other people in society because they're not, to Jackie's point, they're not quote unquote productive. I do think those are real problems, and I think we can make real serious progress in our societal conversations about them, and that we should be not chasing fleeting momentary emotional happiness, but pursuing a sense of deep joy that is grounded in a sense of belonging and purpose in life.
Jackie, I want to leave the last question to you because I think about your work and your international work. And so, you travel to a lot of other countries. In retrospect, or in just comparison to other countries, should Canadians be happier? We have a lot of great things in this country. We have a lot more than other countries do. I think about the global south. So what's our problem? What's our issue? Should Canadians be happier?
There is a certain threshold that individuals have to meet in terms of having their basics met, in terms of it impacting their happiness. We also know when it comes to income, for example, you will not be 10 times happier if you make 10 times the amount of income. That's just not how it works. I think when we compare Canada to other countries globally, we do have a relatively strong social system in place that is advantageous to Canadians. And obviously that impacts our happiness rating. I think one of the things that it really disturbs me is when people go on vacations or mission trips, or they go and visit those in the global south, and they come back and one of their big takeaways is everyone is so happy. I see that and I hear that time and time again, that they are feeling like those who experience poverty are actually really happy. I have not seen that. I have had completely opposite experiences actually. And I think when people go on these trips, what they're experiencing is simply a glimpse of someone else's life. If they were really to see and understand the day in and the day out, they would understand that it's a lot more difficult than that. And that is obviously one of many obstacles that's getting in the way of their happiness.
Yeah. Happiness is complex. You're right. Thank you so much, Colin, Jackie, and Calvin for your time today.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you.
Someone once said, happiness is a direction, not a place. So is it possible to measure it if we're all in a pursuit for happiness? We're people, and people are fickle. I don't know about you, but in a day I can go from being happy to sad to frustrated to happy again. And while I think all of us yearn to be happier, in an article I read recently, it said happiness happens to people. Joy, on the other hand, is a choice purposefully made. Maybe that's why joy is mentioned so much more in the Bible than happiness is. I wonder what our joy index would be in the midst of life's strife and turmoil. Do we cling to something we're always in search of, or are we called to intentionally choose a path to a purpose much larger than ourselves? Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think of today's topic. Join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. For all of us here, I'm Maggie John. See you next time.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a supporter-funded nonprofit organization and member of the Canadian Centre for Christian Charities. Thanks to faithful people like you, we are able to continue producing context. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2, or visit crossroads.ca to learn more about our programs.
Context Beyond the Headlines invites you to an exciting new season. This year, we're expanding our reach with a brand new podcast that will explore the interaction between faith, justice, culture, ethics, and society. As we move forward with this brand new season and the launch of this brand new podcast, would you consider partnering with Context financially? It is because of the generosity of viewers like you that we're able to continue to tell the stories that matter.